It never goes anywhere. This is especially for Anthony.
ما بعرف اذا نبلش بالانجليزي او اذا نبلش بالعربي. بعتقد رح نحكي اكثر انجليزي لانه جبران كان يحكي انجليزي وعربي، لانه جبران خليل جبران شغله كثير كبيره. اليوم نحن رح نحكي عن جبران خليل جبران. يمكن عم تسالوا حالكم من هلا للساعه اللي جايه ليش في حريم قدامي، ليش في كفوف، شو هن هالكتب الموجودين وشو اهميتهم. انا ماني مصدق انه انت قاعد معي اليوم. ثانك يو سو ماتش. بلشنا كثير بكير، قعدنا بكفي لقينا محل نقعد فيه على الساعه 8 الصبح تنحكي عن اول شيء قصتك، لانه انت كمان لبناني وناجح. رح نقول شو على الانجليزي بعد شوي. وتنحكي عن الويب سايت، وتنحكي عن هالكتب يلي كانت وقت ناطر بس نفتحهم تنشوف شو في بقلبهم. فيرست، وقبل ما نبلش بكل شيء، عرفنا عن حالك، اسمك حلو كمان، خبرني عنك، اسمك انت من وين، كيف صرت باستراليا؟
Thank you Tony. شوي بدي شكل على العربي والانجليزي. انا اسمي جلين، يعني اسم جلين اعطتني اياه امي وقت كنت صغير، بس اسم العائلي واللي خلقت فيه كاليم حبيب. فهلا جلين كاليم حبيب. خلقان بهالبلد بس بسيدني. So my journey يعني to here is I don't think it's that interesting. كنت أنا حابب أشوف تاريخي، تاريخ اللبناني. كل ما بتطلع على التلفزيون من شي 20 سنة الاقي نحن terrorists، نحن gangsters، نحن بدري ايش. بس that's not the Lebanese family I grew up in. I grew up in a family full of culture, history, and poetry, and music, food, of course. So I started looking for something positive. وإيش Jabron? And it was like the Tanjra Ghattata, you know, we were perfect for each other. So 25 years later, I'm still working on the global Jabron. وين راح جبران؟ وين وصل جبران؟ السنة هون. So it happens to be I'm Australian of Lebanese background. I love what I do. Jabron has taken me around the world, 33 countries, and has been so much of an inspiration for me.
So Jabron, today is your full-time job?
Not really, no. I wanted to make it my full-time job, so we're working on it. Yeah.
جبران هو كاتب، هو شاعر، هو فنان، هو قديس، هو جبران مين؟ جبران للي ما بيعرف جبران، في ناس بتطلع بتقول كاتب او بتقول هالكلمه قالها جبران خليل جبران. هو مين اساسا بنظرك، ويمكن اعمق من ما الناس بتعرفه؟
سؤال كبير. I don't think رح نعرف جبران بكمالته مين هو. الجبران اللي أنا بعرفه, if you're asking me directly who he is.
At any point in time, if English is better, go for English.
Okay,
I'm okay. For the info to be as precise as it is, as
sure.
deep as it is.
I articulate better in English, I'll be honest. So for Jabron, for me, if you're asking me who Jabron is, it's a lifelong question. I don't think I've got there yet. يعني ما وصلت على السؤال. يمكن ما في answer for your question. بس أحلى شيء هو نور. He's a beacon of light.
أي سنة تعرفت عليه؟
1997. 1997.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then ever since, searching for who he is, what he is, شو عمل. طب خبرنا قصة جبران in a brief nutshell اللي ما بيعرف جبران خليل جبران. هو مين، وين خلق، شو عمل، وين خلص؟
هلا جبران خلق بشري بلبنان in 1883. He was the oldest of three siblings. يعني كان عنده أخت مريانا وسلطانة، بس كان عنده خي من جواز قبل، يعني كاملة جبران كان متجوزة قبل، جاله صبي اسمه بطرس. فب 1895 فلوا على بوسطن بأمريكا، ومن هونيك يعني بلش he started to become recognized as a talented artist, you know, at the very young age of 12. كان عمره 12 سنة. فتخيل بهذيك الأيام كانت كتير صعبة، جايين من أيام صعب، من بشاري كان كتير عندهم قصص
جوع وفقر وعثمانية
وكمان بيو كان شوي يعني يلعب بالطاولة والأقمار وانحبس because كل المصريات كانوا عم يلموا الأتراك. He was working embezzling his tax collection. So what happened in 1895 وصلوا على بوسطن كان عمره 12 سنين وغيروا له اسمه. So a lot of people بيقولوا له ليش انت بتستعمل اسم كاليل جبران KAH ومش جبران خليل جبران. Both of them work بس هو وقت اللي وصل على بوسطن المعلمة تبعته غيرت له اسمه because she thought why have two names the same يعني جبران خليل جبران مين بيعمل هيك يعني. فغيروا ال KHA لل KAH. فجبران أمريكا والويسترن world is Khalil Gibran, and the rest, including specifically the Middle East, is Jabron Khalil Gibran. So I wanted to get that out because I think our viewers would go, "Lesh, you know, why is it Khalil Gibran?" So anyway, بدك التاريخ كله because it's a long story.
Why هل اسم جبران له معنى؟ Did we go into ever since من وقت ما هو كان موجود الناس كيف بتسمي جبران 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 then that word كان له معنى ببشرة؟
فيني خلي هذه للآخرة.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's a beautiful.
Okay, so هو فلك عمره 12 سنة.
Yeah.
بيحكي لبناني. ربيان بالضيعة. وترك معه his roots ترك معه محبته للوطن وبلش بأمريكا.
ما ترك he was always with him. يعني كان بقلبه بعقله. وإسا تأمن قبل منه he was born with it. يعني روحه من هذا. في كلمة بالإنجليزي atavistic hereditary. Something that is long past ترجع بتخلق بإنسان ثاني. فجبران كان عنده هالروح، كان عنده هالإنسانية من قبل ما ينخلق. بس طلعت إنه هيدي البذرة اللي بقلب التفاحة زرعها بنيويورك مش ببداياته. وسهنا عم ناكل من from the pickings of his fruit. You understand?
رجع هو على لبنان؟
رجع مرة So مثلي اجى على امريكا دغري يعرفوا انه he's got some kind of talent. بس كان فقير كان ينقلوا من بيت لبيت من بوسطن بالاخر اجت معلمة ما بدها اياه تروح النزعان ف she introduced him to somebody that became very very important in his life. تعلم كثير اشياء ورجع هو قلدها لشغله هو اسمه فريد هولنداي. فريد هولنداي كان مصور photographer. He was a publisher. بس عرفوا على ناس يعني ما بتتخيل أنثوني the people he was meeting at 13 أقوى ناس وأغنى ناس بالعالم. The most powerful people in the world. كان عم بيفوت على بيتهم يرسمهم.
At a very early age.
13, 14 years of age. ما صار له سنة بالبلد. He was walking into the back bay of Boston, the Brahams of Boston. You know, this is the part a lot of people don't know about Jabron. The people he met, the influences he had, الدين اللي كان عم بيسمع الحكي, it was far beyond anybody's imagination. You know, would it be fair? He knew if he needed to make a change in this world, he needed to infiltrate and he needed to go into this society, but not become part of the society to change the world. تخيل you have a vision, somebody gave you something like a tunnel vision, all right? What would you do with it if you had information like that?
You would use it to make a difference.
He'd use poetry though. He was smart enough to use poetry to do it, not politics. And everyone asked me, you know, why do you choose poetry? I said, it's better than politics. It's longer. It's an eternal truth, you know. We're all passing through this life, you know. But poetry is the connection, the connection between القديم والجديد والله.
If someone wants to get to know Gibran Kahlil Gibran, which book should they read?
God, I don't know, where do you begin? Of course, The Prophet is
the book.
Benchmark. Are you asking me what's my favorite? Sand and Foam.
Sand and Foam.
And I'll tell you why. All the other books, English, Arabic, have a theme, a narrative. The Prophet is about this seer who's living in exile in the Orphalese for 12 years and he preaches to the people. Yeah? Jesus, Son of Man is about, Jesus. So
he was a believer.
Oh yeah, but not the kind of Jesus that, I think, very controversial one, but anyway. But this is in this book as well. But why I like Sand and Foam, and the way we describe it as scholars, his publisher was maybe pressuring him. He says, "Ya Jabron, طلعت الكتاب النبي. Hala, it's 1925. Yalla, you're going to need another book." He was working on Jesus, Son of Man, 1927. قال له حل عنه, but he didn't. He goes, "You're going to be forgotten. You need a book." So نحن, what we say, عجل فيها هيدي, بس هيدي الحلو بهذا البوك. Everything in it is, it's a book of aphorisms. ما في a theme. Yani, he can go from an aphorism like two fish at the bottom of the ocean. One fish says to the other fish, he goes, "Do you know, my friend, above this sea, there's another world with creatures like us that live like we do." And the other fish says, "Rahman on, what are you talking about? You know, if you leave this sea, stay out, you die." Now, Jabron's talking about another world, maybe UFOs, maybe another universe. I mean, this is the fikr of Jabron on a whole nother level.
100 years ago.
In the same book, right, he will say, every 100 years, Jesus of Nazareth meets Jesus of the Christians, and they converse in the hills of Lebanon for hours. But each time, they get up, they walk away, and Jesus of Nazareth turns to Jesus of the Christians and says, "My friend, أنا وياك ما حنتفق." See, there's no...
Very deep.
But there's no connections to the stories. So if you want to know Jabron and this isolating level of understanding of who this mystic, this poet, this artist was, the Sand and Foam is the best book. Because كان يكتب على قشة على باكر السيجاريتس، قشة كبريت، على النابكنز مثلا يكون بشي كافيه يكتب له هالشعر ويحطه. وقت اللي سألوا يمكن الببلشر أعطيني كتاب، قال له حل عني كتبتهم هودي over the past 12-13 years. Some of them are maybe offcuts from the Prophet. They didn't make the Prophet. So for me, the Sand and Foam is بتعرفوا لجبران. You know, besides the Arabic work. The Arabic work for him was, you know, amazing.
How, in your opinion, how do you understand Jabron? What is the mindset you need to have to be able to acknowledge, understand, go deep into what he is and who he is and what does he want?
That differs depending where you are in life. أنت وين بحياتك وكيف تقري جبران، كيف راح تتفسر جبران. Okay? Same with النبي. بيقولوا لك هذا الكتاب قريته أنا هنا عمري 20 سنة وتركته على 20 سنة، رجعت قريته جوزت، جبت أولاد وما بعرف شو، رجعت قريته عنده معنى غير. So for Jabron it's personal, you know. هلا بتسأل حدا like me who's swimming in the deep end, عارف كيف؟ It's a different Jabron for me. My Jabron is a global Jabron. A Jabron who, you know, changed the world. In 2017, my colleague and I, Francesco Medici in Italy, Italiani, عم بحكي معه قلت له, you know, where's this study that says he's translating to 40, 50 languages? قال لي, there isn't one. I said, well, من وين عم بيجيبوا الحكي? And this is the area that we love, the academic scholarly work. I go, you know what we have to do, Francesco? He goes, yeah, we have to do the study. It took us a year and a bit. We thought we'd find 40, 50. We collected as many books as possible, translations as possible. But we focused on the first language or country translation. Right? And I'll come back to that in a minute. But when we got to 50, we got there like that. 60, we got like that. 70, 80 or something. First edition, all language, right? We're talking not the second, third. The French has 33 editions.
Wow.
We're talking, this is the first one here. We can talk about it. Oh. Then we got to 100.
Proven. It's a study. مش خبروا الناس.
It's been noted by an academic journal in the UK. Yeah. We got to 108 and we decided to publish our findings. Right? This is 2017. We've added 8 since, so it's 116.
116
official
different
first language or country translations. Now,
wow.
Again, to put that in perspective, this is the French edition, a very rare book of 400 ever printed, 1926. We didn't count the other 30 plus translations. Only the first
This
one.
is how impactful, how important, how mesmerizing this man is.
if you speak about Jabron, you got it. For me, it's a global Jabron. Yeah, you know, I was the first scholar, an academic, to go to China in 2013. I was invited to speak on Jabron at the Peking University. I thought that I went to educate them. It was the other way around. 90 plus years of studying Jabron. He's the most influential and most read poet, immigrant poet in China.
Oh, he's never stopped to be Lebanese. Lebanon was always in him. He believes in Lebanon, loves Lebanon. What can we learn from him for a better Lebanon?
I think it's a tough question. You know, it's a tough question for me to answer. But if you want, I think for him, his pride in Lebanon is inspirational for me. What constitutes being Lebanese? You know, I've had this thing about. I've got another project called Lebanon Without Borders. Is Lebanon, being Lebanese, confined to 10,452 square kilometres? Or are you Lebanese here in Australia? I'm born here, but I feel every part of being Lebanese like anyone else. You know, I don't cry much. I only cry when I hear something that gives me, I'm proud of, when someone's Lebanese and doing something well. Where's that come from? You know, وأنا خلقان بهالبلد. You know, there's something deep within us.
يلي بيصير معك صار معه، حتى لو مثل ما انت اضطروا اهلك يفلوا. Your parents were had to leave, and his parents had to leave. So هو كمان immigrant diaspora، عمل شيء للبنان كثير مهم، ونحن عم نكفي نتعلم منه هذا الشيء. كان عنده دائما يقول my Lebanon is different than your Lebanon. So he had his Lebanon. Do you call it his perfect Lebanon he wanted to write about or show to the world?
Sure. هلا if you want to answer that question, هذا السؤال بتاريخ جبران وقت اللي كان بنيويورك كان في كثير اشياء that was happening. So it was a very interesting time. So تخيل جبران قبل ما انتقلت لبنان الكبرى كانوا يعيطوا لهم Syrians. عرفت كيف؟ That was part of Greater Syria. So for him, it was beyond, if you like,
beyond the Lebanon we know today.
Beyond geography. He looked at his backyard, طلع بالباكيارد تبعته ولقى ناس يفرحوا له قلبه ودماغه. He used those myths and heroes and heroines وكتبهم بالكتاب. أجنحة المكسرة. Astrut, right? Gilgamesh. I'm going back way before even, you know, the current Abrahamic religions, for instance. You know what I mean? Zoroastrianism. You know, this is all in his backyard. He knew that. So تخيل جبران عنده ما بعرف ايش بتسموه ink bowl. الحبر بيقولوا بقوله. مثل كان ينزل brush or pen بالink bowl. You can هيك for most people بس هو يعني كان عنده وحدة كبيرة هيك because تاريخ جبران تاريخ المنطقة كلها كان فيه. And this is why when you dig as deep as he did, مرة كنت I was reading him. It was like this was a very cold morning at 4 a.m. in the morning. I بقري I can't remember what كتاب بس كتبت كتاب وشلحت كتاب قلت يا جبران how deep did you go? يعني I went this much as far as he's taken. But for him, this is where he dug deep, brought it back and gave it light.
So I'm searching for Lebanese success stories around the world, and Lebanese success stories around the world started with Jabron. Back then, probably 130 years ago and ongoing.
So he's our most prized son. You know, I get in trouble for saying this. يعني هو أكبر من لبنان. بس كل شيء بيرجع لبنان. يعني through this person. يعني I never. هلا نحن عم نحكي على قصة جبران وأنت من لبنان وبيت بوجه لبنان. بس أنا وقت بروح على معرض or something like that, Lebanese على جنب. Because مستحيل if you look into Jabron بدك تلاقي لبنان بالآخر. Okay? And he did put us on the map, whether we like it or not. the beacon. برجع بقول هو النور لبنان. بس عملها بشكل ما حدا اجى وراه. Right? والسنة we're still finding out more stuff. Every single day. سألوني بانترفيو recently, is he still relevant? يعني لسه عنده معنى بالعالم. وأنا عرفت السؤال من وين جاي. This is on a big public radio station. I can give you an example of his relevance because you know, Queen Elizabeth died this year. This was last year. She goes, yeah. I said the Bishop of London, right, quoted Jabron at the funeral of the Queen. Does that make him relevant? She goes, yeah, I guess so. I said, you have your answer. The Bishop of London wrote the Kitab, overseeing the funeral of Queen Elizabeth, the longest reigning queen in history, quotes Jabron.
Nice. To dig into what you do, تنحكي أكثر عن أنتم شو عم تعملوا. Let's start by one question. Why do you do what you do?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know. I do know and I don't know. But you know, when someone gives you a gift, you can't spoil it. You know. And I've struggled with it. I've even struggled with family and friends. Like, you know, شو بيعمل هذا بداية وقته وين روح شو لك إنا عن جبران وساعته you know, like there's a connection. I can't tell you what the connection is.
You're making a difference without even knowing, because this brings us to the original question. What can we learn from Jabron to rebuild Lebanon? And I believe you're definitely doing it without even knowing. Collecting, connecting, talking, publishing, saying, etc. etc. يمكن إذا كل واحد منا بيقرأ جبران مرة بحياته becomes a different person without even knowing.
Absolutely. For me, yeah.
Please go.
I think for me, the world that we live in now, يعني صغيري sort of. Okay, that's why I go back to saying with كان جبران بأيامه شاف what was coming, right? كان عنده tunnel vision of what was coming. اتخيل New York in the early 1900s. The people that were coming to New York was like the mecca of the world. كل الأفكار, you know, he had people that he met and drew, Carl Jung, Tagore, Tabusi, Henry Rochford. I mean, all these great thinkers, Metalink. I mean, he was Kenzaki. I want to paint your portrait, and we'll show you one of the portraits which I have, an original. But he used it as a way to connect. Like, what are you bringing to the world? You've come here to New York. شو أفكارك أنت? You know, what's your vision of the world? Imagine sitting with Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychiatrists, one of the founders of psychiatry, who became friends with Jabron. They said, come to Switzerland, hang out for a year. These are people who are making impact on the world today, even. So Jabron, his impact was probably, I think, interweaved with that great push of that turn of the century. And he knew that we were going to have problems, especially in the Middle East. That's why he wrote what he wrote, those somewhat controversial poems. You know, you have your Lebanon, I have mine. But they have hidden meaning. The 1919 Peace Accord in Peace Conference in Paris, where they started to annex or shuffle منطقة الأسود. ما كان موافق. He wanted provinces. He wanted us to be united, because if you divide us, you'll kill us. I'm sorry to say that's what's happened. You know, Lebanon was always his baby, but he saw it as a nur for the rest of his neighbors to follow. So Lebanese, yes, but Lebanese بالروح, you know, not so much geographical, you know, because it's all one land, really. Who paints borders? We do. So again, the question of, you know, is being Lebanese confined to? No. If you go down the road of Jabron, you realise that there is something wider, and that's the spirit. So the language of the spirit is loud, but نحن دينينا مسكرين, you know. عينينا you know, blocked. بس اللي بيفتح قلبه للروح بيلاقي لغة غير. Poetry is the only way to explain that. Poetry is the only way to في the pen bond الرابطة. هو كان رئيس الرابطة بتعرف الرابطة بنيويورك. أمير ريحاني كان مشهور فيها وخليل نعيمي كلها الكبار يعني. وقتلي when they elected Jabron as the president هو يطلع بالموتو تابعته. والموتو how wonderful are the treasures underneath God's throne تحت كرسة الله في كتير treasures but only the tongue of a poet can unlock. هذا from where? This is a hadith from the Quran. We all recognize the spirit, the language of the spirit, whatever cloak it is. Whether you drive a Mercedes or a BMW or a Ford, it's a vehicle to get you to one point to another. But make sure that you're reading, you know, it properly, not, you know, interpret it differently, because the road, for me, always leads to your larger self.
Shouldn't Jabron be on Netflix?
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was part of a writing team that we've written already a 26-part series.
Oh my God, happening?
Like, I was part of the writing team. I don't know. I'm not pretty
Because I hear people are reading less, people are being cultivated less, and in this world of phones and televisions, we need something that is easier and faster. And there are movies that have been made about people that are definitely less influential than Gibran. So one day, probably we're going to see a movie about him.
As a person from the film and television background, I can tell you this is not a new subject. Can I show you something?
Yeah?
فأنت سألتني على الفيلم لجبران. So من 1933 انحكى على فيلم لجبران. واستمعنا عمل فيلم
1933 90 سنة.
So it's a long conversation. It's, you know, 100 سنة عم نحكي بفيلم لجبران.
Probably it's too complicated. We don't know where to start.
I have some عندي فكرة لهذا بس maybe another conversation, but بدي أشوفك شيء هذا it's part of our collection. Okay, the organisation, the not-for-profit organisation I built, collects things like this because we think it's important. يعني هذا this is a 1980s Hollywood film script that never got made.
1981
by William Lucci. William Lucci was a playwright on Broadway in New York, a very celebrated playwright, won Tony Awards, you know, high caliber. Perfectly written script, done his research, never got made. Option to Larry Thompson Entertainment, still quite a large agency in Hollywood. So when you ask me about a film...
Do you know why?
Yeah.
Do we know why? Why not? Why? What happened? What's happening?
It's a tough conversation. I don't know, but I just don't think it's the time
Yet. He's that deep.
And to be honest, there's other scripts. I think they were boring. حياته منها هالقد. إذا بدك تحكي على جبران بفيلم بدك تحكي على جبران يعني بنقطة بحياته. You know, for me it's New York. All right. مثل لينكولن. حضرت الفيلم لينكولن President Lincoln.
So his life, in your opinion, is not interesting, probably because he never wrote an autobiography. But it definitely was interesting. If only he writes the people he met, if only he writes how he left Sharra, if only he writes... So, or are the books an autobiography covered?
For me, it's appealing more to find a period in his life. يعني تاخذ نقطة من حياته وتقولها because وقت بتعرف هالنقطة وبتعرف هو يعني وصل مرجع يعني from the 1915 to 1930 I think أحلى period for me for Jabron because كان في كتير أشياء World War One وكتاب first published in English the famine ببلده there was a lot going on. You know, the rebellion against everybody. You know, he can Tefishman everybody, not everybody, but he was a rebel. And they called him the rebel poets. So if you're going to make a film, I think you have to make it interesting, and it has to be a love story. So for me, the love story is Mary Haskell. You know, do you know about Mary Haskell? So Mary Haskell كانت يعني العذراء. It was the Mary of Jabron, the living, you know, Mary for him. She gave him, you know, everything, and he gave her everything. You know, what اللي توفى جبران, a lot of people don't know. كتب بالورثة كل شيء له. Everything. He goes, I leave everything to Mary. Whatever you don't want, اللي ما بدك اياه تبعتي على ابني. تخيل. There's a huge collection. So Mary أخذت كم لوحة والكيت أكثر شيء من الكتب. She wanted the letters, which are the holy grail for us. And I have access to them. I'm one of the lucky ones. That's how we know Jabron, through these letters. اللي كتبوا بين بعضهم, it's عشوا Romeo and Juliet. ما عندهم شيء حدهم. You know, it was just beautiful. It was this,
All published?
no,
Yet.
strictly under lock and key, some of them. Yeah.
Who has
But we're
the
getting-
rights for them?
Interesting. That has gone. That's another. It's gone to the courts, the federal courts of America, because of these letters. Those letters changed the copyright law of America. They're in Savannah, Georgia, at the moment, in the archives, where she donated them for future researchers like myself and others. But it became a sticking topic because Halla, it's owned by the family, the Haskell miners family, and Carlos Slim in Mexico, because he bought the estate. The estate was owned in Boston, مع فاليونو. ومرته كتبوا autobiography. They are royalty in our field of experts, but they gave the rights with the collection to Carlos Slim's foundation, the Slim Foundation.
So we're going back to the original question we didn't answer yet. So what do you do? Tell me about the website, tell me about the collection, tell me about the conferences, tell me about the trips,
Sure.
Tell me about what's happening.
So, مثل ما قلت لك أنا بلشت في 97. It was an interesting start. لقيت جبران. I bought the book for a girlfriend بسعادة because أمي كانت تقري جبران. Normally she used to recite جبران عم تعمل مجادرة بالكيتشن. كنت أسمع جبران بس I was 20, like, you know, wasn't interested. فاشتريت كتاب وعطيته للجيرلفريند at the time. You know what? I know you're feeling upset. This book will help you. أنا مني قريه. But I was like, what am I going to do? You know, I was trying to, you know, impress her. She wasn't Lebanese. ما قريت البوك. We separated. بس ضل الكتاب بالسيارة. I started going downhill a little bit. So I was at a crossroads in life. بنظف السيارة تبعها طلع الكتاب. قلت يا عمي اشو الكتاب؟ مسكته وقريته قلت okay. Instant love. And I wanted to know more. بلشت نبش what I could do. I was living here in Melbourne. I was broke. I was living in a caravan بيت عمي here. You know, I lost my business. Everything was just, but I was happy. I can't explain it. Every night بقري جبران. So قريت إنه كان في فيلم معمول على جبران because I was interested in film. أجنحة المكسرة طلع من لبنان. 1962. I want to see the film. I'm interested in doing a film, a documentary. I want to see this film. فنزلت كان في محل بيعاير فيديوز. كان was VHS back then, right? اسمه جورج حنا. We're still friends. قلت له فت على المحل. هو كان يقلد كل VHS مسلسلات من لبنان ما بعرف شو. قلت له جورج عم بدور على فيلم أجنحة المكسرة معمول على خليل جبران. قال لي مين خليل جبران؟ What? Something. هو يخلقون من لبنان
سو لبناني ما بيعرف
ما بيعرف
جبران.
جبران. I went, something's wrong here. Years later, I'm still educating people on who Jabron is. So I started in 99 رحت على أول international conference in Washington where I met one of my mentors. الله يرحمه سهيل بشروي, Professor Sahel Bashroui. He's one of the foremost scholars on Jabron. 55 سنة as a professor. Right? I could give you spoof على اللي عمله. كان بالأيوبي راح على Oxford, Cambridge, and he ended up in Maryland University in Washington. So in 99, I borrowed some money. I flew to Washington as a fan, you know. I just wanted to be with people who loved Jabron like I did. I found family, and I'm still friends with these same people. And we all have the same, arar, you know. We want to collate, document, study, build a library, educate people on Jabron, not just the Jabron of Lebanon or America, but the global Jabron. And he still gives Yanti, and it's like a rush البذر تحته everywhere. وهلا عم لاقي اشياء come up. So in 2013 again اجاني طلبت اشتري الويب سايت khalilgibran.com. ما كان لايف. يبعثوا لي messages, do you want to buy it? I said yeah, but not for $25,000 US. You know, I'm broke, I'm working, you know, dead-end job in my life. This went on for about 4 years. يبعثوا لك email, are you interested? I'm interested. This is my offer. 15 minutes later, accepted. What? I got no money. Telephone, I need to borrow this, that. Next thing you know, I bought it. Not knowing that it was going to come to where it came to now. So today I'm happy to say 10 years ago, 2013, it's the world's largest website for Jabron. 4,500 pages. We are number one in all search engines, and I don't pay for any of it. كله على the size of the information that we have, and it's all free. الارشيف تاعتنا, nothing like it in the world. 650 entries and about 4,000 pages of information. Anything related to Jabron, film scripts, audio, paintings, letters, كله على الارشيف. I have people contacting me كل جمعة all around the world from the most remote corners of the globe, thanking me for this website. I'm proud of the work we did. We've done it on our own ticket. Whatever money I could put in it, I'm putting back. After this meeting, I'm going to meet with my web developer, who does everything pro bono. You know, we do it for the love of Jabron.
What's the ultimate goal?
To build a legacy worthy of him, global legacy. Jabron, you know, a lot of people are like third, fourth most read author in the world. Obviously one of the most translated. I know, I did the study, yes? For me, where is his home? Sharia Arosi Aini. I have a cordial relationship with them, right? Well, I'm sa'adun in lots of ways. But if he's as big as Shakespeare, Lao Tzu, right? And all these greats, in the top 5, have you seen what they've done? Have you seen the foundations, their committees? Have you seen the platform that they've built? One of my other heroes is Joseph Campbell. And if you look at their websites and their foundation and what they do, it's incredible. And if you
We need to think beyond Sharri and beyond Lebanon.
And Shari knows this, and you know, and we're working together on this. I've introduced the Shari to lots of people in the diaspora, in connection to Jabron. I've worked with 5 committees in the last 25 years, right? Bridging the gap between the who's who of Jabron, right? And we're getting closer and closer to forming a foundation worthy of Jabron. Right? Why is it important? Because I think for him, his legacy is important. It's not about Jabron. You know, Jabron says, don't worry about my biography. ما تفوتوا بحياتي، حياتي ما كانت هالقد. كنت دخن كتير وقهوة ما بعرف شو. I used to eat crap. بس هذا منو شيء كمان ايش فيه بقلبي. إذا بدك تعرف ايش فيه بقلبي، read my poetry. Look at my paintings. That's the pure in me. Not, you know, my biography. Don't make another head bust وحطوها بالشارع. You know, and we say, oh look, this is Jabron. هذا روج Jabron. My mentor would say, هودي الباست لجبران، هودي للعصافير. He used to talk in parables, يعني كان يقول لك but what we're celebrating is because the work is in the poetry Glen. It's the great language of the spirits. Not just Jabron. Jabron's taking language from past spirits, put it in there. Because, but what's that got to do with the عصافير? Because, you know, هو ما كان يسب حياته يمكن ما سب مرة. اللي you know تجي العصافير وبتغط على الراس. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I'm عامل decipher على ايش عم بيعمل. قال لي you know بتجي العصافير وبتعمل وسخ. I went, oh, بس العصافير بتروح والوسخ بيقعد. It's the true spirit of what we do is in the work. And this is why I do what I do. I guess if they let issue what I do, because you know, it's one thing to celebrate. And don't get me wrong, I'm doing a sculpture in New York at the moment. I'm trying to get a sculpture for him, a sculpture, not his head, in New York. That was supposed to happen last year to celebrate his New York life and everything that came with it. But I think the real work is building the archive, the bibliography. We're still finding out things now to this day, unwritten, unpublished works. This drawing, which you'll see in a minute, was never known to us until last year. And it was a gift, you know, and these are the things that we need an organisation driven academically, scholarly, right, to preserve all this for future generations.
جاي اليوم وجايب معك اشياء كتير حلوه، صار وقت نفرجيهم شو في على الطاوله. شو مخبى هون؟
اوكي وين بدي بلش؟ ف the organisation تبعيتي صار لي شي 20 سنه I'm been collecting. So عندنا حوالي 450 كتاب rare books. عندي في 1923 النبي the first 15 years of publication. يعني بيطلعوا شي 30 كتاب. And the reason why we're doing it again, كمان to preserve some of the early editions. النبي it's one of the most read books in the world. Plenty of copies, but the older copies بدي أشوف فيك إياهم الكتاب القديم they're becoming more rare. ما في كتير منهم. So in our collection بلش بالنبي we have the first edition and this one. First one. So وتخيل وقت اللي طلع النبي كان في 1200 طبعة يسموه publication. So بعد 100 سنة أكيد في كتير go missing. So بين حالي وصديقي our small group we have a collection of first edition copies. So أول ما بيطلع الكتاب الببلشر بيعطي لجبران 100 كتاب يمديه. هودي كمان they're getting more aware. So I don't have one yet.
Okay.
So this is the first edition.
Yep.
Of the Kutub. So it's what's interesting is what اللي طلع جبران هو خلص الكتاب ب 1920 thereabouts. يعني بفكره كانت خالصة. كثير بيسألوني what was his inspiration of the book. I tell them his lifelong work was his inspiration. يعني بس الفكر النبي يقول لك مش أنا كنت بس البن. عارف كيف؟ So again, maybe I was telling you he was the conduit مثل بيقولوا بالإنجليزي. The connection between the old and the new. بس نطر 1923 تنزل الكتاب النبي. ليش؟ كان أول ما نخلص الحرب العالمية الأولية، فلقى إنه العالم بدأ شيء heal from. كان في كتير جرح بالعالم، فنطر 1923 ونزل الكتاب. Jabron was much deeper. This is another conversation. كان mystic. 1923, numbers had meaning as well. You know, Aylul had a significance. He even used the word Aylul in the opening paragraph. Number 7, Aylul, September, the birth month. All of it has relevance, and that's a whole other mystical conversation.
Okay.
But this is
The origin.
first edition. All right? Sorry if I get too philosophical. So again, this is also a first edition. This is my precious book. It's a sand and foam because it's my favorite book. But it's a very important book because we have a couple of signatures. Barbara Young was his personal assistant for the last 8 years. كانت هي عم تعامله بكل هذا، وبعد ما مات كمان رحت على لبنان she was in charge of his affairs. So هي مدده Barbara Young، بس كمان هو مديه. So this is a signed first edition by Barbara Young and Khalil Gibran.
Precious.
Yeah. This is also a very rare edition of Jesus. Why is it rare? It came out in 1927, in November, but this is October 1927. It came out before the publication. The publisher كان ينزل كتاب شي 50-100 طبقة as a full copy. تيشوف إذا في mistakes ما mistakes, and when they approve it, they go for the actual printed edition. So this one is also a very rare book, and we have a couple of these in our collection because it's October, not November 27 when the book came out. These are pre-editions of the publication.
Color.
As you can read.
Before publication.
Before publication.
1928.
Sure. Now, again, we do a lot of work regarding his illustrations. His illustration, هو كان يعمل illustration. تعلمها من هذا الشخص قلت لك Fred Hollanday. What's unique about the Prophet, and this is something of a study of mine, I'll go back to this. This is what he called the hand of God, or hand of providence, or the flame hand. هو يرسمه. جبران تعلم هيدي من فريد هولنداي. كل شيء بتشوف بالكتاب، حتى اللوحات اللي بقلب الكتاب لجبران رسمهم specifically for right the كتاب. Jabron was a symbolist. كان يتخيلها visually and he used to write it.
انا عم ببتسم لانه عم فكر انه نحن بلشنا تنعمل انترفيو، انا قلت يعني نص ساعه عم نحكي عن جبران خليل جبران. It seems رح اضطر التقى فيك كل ما اكون بملبورن for at least 1 hour تنعمل حلقه عن جبران الرسام، وحلقه عن جبران الكاتب، وحلقه عن جبران البوت، وحلقه عن واو جبران شغله كبيره.
شغله جبران كبيره.
And getting closer and closer نتقرب اكثر واكثر من نفهم اللي انت عم تشتغلوا عليه صار لكم سنين. هو مين يعني مثل اليوم في ناس قديسين، اليوم في ناس اقوى من غيرهم، في ناس بتحكي اكثر اليوم، بس اليوم على السوشيال ميديا عم بيساعد. بوقتها كان وحده وقدر يوصل هلا.
Look, the subject like Jabron كبير كتير, Anthony, and عن جد for me it's not something تلحقها بساعة. يعني فيني روح.
So in preparation to the next hour قلنا شو مخبى هون.
اوكي يلا هذا كتاب انا كشفت عليه ب 2013. ما كان حدا عارف فيه. It was not for public sale. هذا ما كان معروف للببليك because ما كان منباع للببليك. هذا الكتاب اللي حامله بإيدي is an official US Army release for World War I. Sorry, World War II.
For the army to read it while...
It's a full copy, okay? هذا العسكر كاتب اسمه. We tracked him down in Belgium. بس توفى. We told his family إن إحنا عندنا الكتاب تبعته. كان عنده cipher cards كانوا يلعبوا. تخيل جيش in World War II in the trenches of Normandy حامل كتاب النبي وعم بقريه ويمكن رح يموت. This is an official US Army release of the book. Out of 1,322 books, he was the only book of poetry. برجع بقول لك Global Jabron is huge. So this is again a precious book. برجع بقول لك our translations. This is The Prophet, the first ever edition in French, 1926. ما حنحكي على ال background story of who Madeleine Mason Menham كانت. بس الكتاب is only 400 ever printed. Very rare book. وكانت تفريقه لجبران وراسمها كمان. Okay. So هذا الأول كتاب. هذا audio recording, cassette of the Prophet and other works by
جوني كاش. واو.
أنا اشتريت أول كتاب لإلفيس like in 2013 كمان. Jabron, Elvis was a crazy fan of Jabron. وهلا معروف كاتبين عنه 100 قصة. أول كتاب طلع على الأوكشن. I couldn't buy it. ما كان عندي مشتري. فدقيت للجنة جبران قلت لهم you need to buy this book. And we bought it together. I bought it for them and now it's in the museum along with this book which I donated to them. Why? هذا الكتاب لإلفيس كاتب أفكاره فيها. And another day وبشوف ما بتتخيل إلفيس بيكتب هيك.
Tell me about this.
Oh, okay. So, and then the other stuff we'll leave to. Okay. So another thing that I want to give credit to Salim Mujaiz. I've been pronouncing that wrong, because one of the things that Jabron عمل رسم كتير ناس مش بس ناس, you know, the biggest brains, the biggest minds of his time كانوا فيها. We have over 65 people that رسم, including Rodin, Debussy, Abdul Bahai. You know, Jabron came portraitist, كان يحب البورتريتشر from the very beginning. يعني من أول ما وصل على بوسطن وهو صغير كان يرسم أرجاء faces. So this is a very important project for us because السنة عم نكشف على portraits جديد وهلا في واحد تاني هلا we're negotiating in Massachusetts another portrait. We don't know how many he did, 60 to 70 people maybe. So I was lucky, كنت كتير fortunate last year. اجتنا طلب على auction that there was a portrait لجبران بس ما كانوا عارفين if it was a portrait or not. And I'll tell you why. Let me introduce you, Anthony, to...
So first time published, first time you talk about it, first time you take it out of your home.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no. Technically, it was part of an exhibition last year, but we introduced her to the public on our website last week. But this is the first time since then. ما كان عارفين فيها. We didn't publicize it until last week. This is Rose Cecile O'Neill. So again, Jabron met some pretty amazing people. And this lady, Rose, was a friend, okay? But not just any friend. She is a national treasure for America and the world. She was an illustrator, cartoonist, كانت ترسم caricature تقولوا واخترعت caricature اسمه the Cupid doll. The Cupid doll is هلا محلة. It was the first mass-produced doll in the world. It's still going today. هلا فرجيك صورة على شو اسمه. فجبران وروز كانوا رفقة. They're friends. هي رسمته كمان. If I can just show you. Her portrait of him is in the Smithsonian Museum in America. She has 3 museums for her in America alone. So Rose O'Neill was تخيل she was a forerunner in her field. You know, ما كانت تلبس مثل غيرهم. She was, you know, to wear kaftans. She was part of the suffragettes movement. You know, women's rights, women's votes. I mean, she was a powerful, influential, rich woman, but down to earth, because she came from similar roots to Jabron, and that was the connection for them. They came from nothing, both of them. I'll show you quickly her portrait of him, which is beautiful. You've probably seen it.
Yeah.
So this is Rose's portrait of Jabron. Now, when it came up for auction, a lot of people didn't know that this was original because of this signature. Because it's not a signature, it says Rosalind, begun by Khalil Gibran. It's not finished. This part of the portrait is not finished. This is more refined. But we knew. I'll tell you how. They didn't know if it was a real portrait because they knew that this wasn't his handwriting. But we knew because it was her handwriting. It's very distinct handwriting. So when you overlay that with the portrait of her, you have Rose O'Neill.
We're gonna leave them on that. I'm very, very happy we met. Very happy we connected. Very happy we're having this conversation. Very honored to be digging into Khalil Gibran's work. We still have an unanswered question, which we're gonna leave for next time as a teaser. The origin of the word Jabron. You remember we started with this and we didn't finish. Thank you so much. We have an appointment, you and I, in November on my next visit, and probably we're going to meet in the States. And I'll make sure as of now on my travels around the world to dig into more Gibran Kahlil Gibran books in hidden homes, libraries I visit. I'm just remembering how many books I have seen in Baghdad and Iraq thrown away. Wow, this place, you could have definitely.
We have a lot in Arabic as well. But if you don't mind, I wanted to say that we're a not-for-profit. We have a few projects in the pipeline. If people are interested in supporting what we do, please reach out through KhalilGibran.com or our social media pages. We have events in New York that are coming up. I'm part of a committee in Washington at the moment. We're refurbishing the Washington Memorial. So if anyone's out there who loves Jabron and wants to be involved, we don't say no to volunteers or any love that can be thrown at us, because I think our work is important, because I think we're similar in that I'm in Bayed Waj Lebanon. You do it through how you do it, your personality, it's infectious. And I just do it through a different light, but we're part of the same family. So let's use this platform, right, our platforms, right, to make Lebanon the place it should be.
Great again. Yeah. Thank you so much.